Hey guys, that is funkyplaybrothers, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. And today I'm reading the last chapter of an original novel, Piggy Infected. The last time we read chapter 4 with Badgie and Billy, even though Badgie, I don't think in the actual game he was ever uninfected, but now let's read. Chapter 5. Why do you run? Badgie asks, obviously much more put together than Ben. What is at the moment? Ben nodded in agreement. That was a good question. Are you kidding me? All I've been doing for months is running, Ollie replied, being to extract himself from the banner. A few weeks ago, my friend visited the hospital. But after their visit, they started acting weird and scary. I came to this part of the island looking for my grandma. But when I got here, everyone was acting weird and scary, so I hid. I've been looking out for the infected and watching for survivors ever since. The only problem is you can't tell the difference until it's too late. Well, any friend of Ben is a friend of ours, Billy said, cheerfully helping Ollie to his feet. You ought to come with us. We'll be well taken care of at the safe place. Ollie nodded in appreciation, taking his hood down to wipe his teary eyes. Will I ever see my family again? For a moment, there was no answer. Let's get going, Badgie said, taking charge and leaving the question hanging in the air. The truth was there was no way of knowing would any of them ever see their family again. And if so, what would that even look like? I wish some of these food stalls were open. I haven't had Kitty's Kitchen in forever. I wonder if they still serve those butter bites, Billy moaned as they passed a particularly delicious smelling stall. How can you even think about eating at a time like this, Badgie wondered aloud. Don't act like I didn't hear your stomach growling while we were chasing the mall rat. Billy shot back with a chuckle. It was the loudest thing I've ever heard. Badgie tucked his mystery vial back into his jacket. You must be mistaken. Unlike some of us, I never patrol on an empty stomach. Yeah, right, Badge. Then what was that grunting sound I heard back there? Badgie froze in place, realizing what was happening just a second before everyone else. At the bottom of the steps, 3 infected creatures lay in wait, each armed with a wooden plank of some sort or another. 3 infected stood at the bottom of the escalator, lurching forward only to be pushed back as they attempted to come up the descending escalators. It's them, Ollie whispered, his voice a mixture of fascination and pure dread. I never had the time to take a good look at them before. Lucky, came the reply in triplicates from Ben, Badgie, and Billy. Each armed themselves for battle once more. Billy hefted his barbell. Ben drew the conductor's wrench from his backpack, Badgie's vial glowing as he waved it back and forth. Seriously, what is this thing? Ben finally queried. That's actually a great story, Badgie replied. I'll tell it to you someday if we get out of here. Looking at his friends, Ollie put up his fists. No, Ben had already lost Ollie for too long. It was his job now to make sure that Ollie was protected. A crowbar lay next to an automated transaction machine, the remnants of an obviously and futile attempt to rob this place. Sure bring out the robot with the chainsaw arm for a break-in. But an infestation of infected armies, though the heist may have failed, that didn't make it a total loss. Ben grabbed the crowbar and handed it to Ollie. You see anyone that isn't me, Badgy or Billy, you start swinging, okay? Ollie nodded, wrapping his fingers around the cool metal hand of the crowbar. This is Badgy and Billy, by the way. They're friends of mine. Badgy and Billy waved as best they could as they held their weapons. The infected seemed to have figured out the stairs. While on the ground, the infected were slow and unwieldy. When it came to stairs, they seemed to almost glide up them, bringing their horrible odor and attitude for violence with them. Badgy and Billy went to work immediately. Ben could see how the duo had managed to survive together for so long. Badgy was all fancy. He would dip, dive, and duck in and out of the fight, avoiding or encountering any move that the infected could throw at him. He even managed to disarm one of them. Billy seemed to be less inclined to demonstrate finesse and was much more interested in, walloping all the infected with his giant barbell. Every time one of them would lunge for Badgy, the invincibility miss. Billy was there to smack the infected on the side of the head with the with a resounding thud. It never took them out of the fight for more than half a minute. For as long as Ben assumed these two had, sometimes that was all you needed. For their part, Ben and Ollie helped take out the escalator. In fact, it is much simpler task given that this group of infected still hadn't figured out which was the escalator worked yet. They shuffle in line, each one only getting a few steps on the escalator before it deposited them back at the beginning. Ollie and Ben took them out with a wild abandon. Ollie's particular was taking to the crowbar like a duck of water. There wasn't much to swinging a crowbar, but to Ben, Ollie was making it look like a long-lost art form. Having stunned or dispatched the rest of the infected, Badgy and Billy joined the two separated friends at the bottom of the stairs. Luckily for a court, exits of the mall were clearly marked when what Ben wouldn't have the kind of signature back at school or the Lucella Gallery. The group passed a shuddering sports goods shop. Ben couldn't help but think how much Sally would have loved to break in and pick a new crossbow. They could use her marksmanship and her optimism right now. Following the exit signage, the group were finally able to find their way back to the entrance, bordered over, of course, with over a dozen wood planks. That had most likely been placed there long ago to keep the infected out, but it was becoming clear that they were doing more to keep them in. I've got this big, Billy declared, boldly discarding his barbell and taking several steps back. Getting a running start, he lowered his head toward the planks and promptly bounced off them. It seemed that, hard-headed as he may be, the wood planks had been placed there for a professional and had no intention of being smashed apart. I could probably help tame Ollie's tiny voice as he presented his crowbar. It seemed the small metal bar was good for something other than breaking tokens out of a machine. Ollie pressed the bar between the wall and the wooden board, using the entire of his not substantial body weight to crack one of the wood boards in half. It snapped loudly, splintering in the middle as Batty reached down and moved it. With Ollie ready to take off the next one, this board also snapped in half. The cracking sound echoed down the hallway, surely drawing in infected who had only been stunned and were now angry. Another piece of the wood barricade came off as Ollie pierced the wooden bars off the door. Okay, but I loosened it for you, Billy said sheepishly. The infected were advancing on them. Ben had been through this so many times in the last few weeks. He felt no fear, only urgency. The sooner they got out of here, the sooner they could get to the safe place and debate their next move. If Ben had any say in it, they would be heading straight for the man who had been communicating on Channel 2. Ollie was moving faster now, prying off the top of the board and letting Badgie and Billy handle the rest. Just in time, they pulled the last board off the door, Billy throwing it all the nearest infected and hit the things ahead with a dull bonk, but the infected barely seemed to be noticed, the current pushing through the doors, shutting them behind them. Ollie relinquished his crowbar, shuffling it into the door handle to barricade it. Ollie had always been a smart kid. Maybe that was how he survived in Lucella all this time. The group composed themselves with Badgie leading the way. Ben was used to leading the way, but this far from home, he felt especially useless. He hoped that this safe place was as nice as Billy had described, but he didn't particularly care. For the last few weeks, he'd slept on train seats and fallen logs. His back hurt, his feet hurt, his head hurt. However, all that was eclipsed by the fact that he had done it. He had finally done it. He had found Ollie. Ben shot a look over at his friends, happy to have found any of them, let alone three of them. They walked until dawn. Just as the sun began to peek over the island, spilling a warm glow over the city, Billy took a deep breath of fresh air and exhaled the fog that seemed to plague the city, pulled back in the mornings, leaving it covered with a fresh layer of dew. Maybe it was because Ben had not been out at night for so long, but it felt as though it made the air crispier, or maybe all the air Ben had been breathing was recycled and stained with the stench of the infected. It was hard to tell anymore. Home safe home, Billy announced, gushing ahead of the low, sweeping bow. Ben led a Ben let a small smile crack his usually stern visage for the first time in days. The safe place, as it had been deemed chronically in its residence, was the biggest building that Ben had ever seen in his real life. From the outside, Ben couldn't count at least 5 stories, and if Billy was to be believed, there were multiple bedrooms, 4 storage rooms, a radio room, a gym, a cafeteria, and a laundry. Ben looked down at his favorite hoodie, ragged from weeks of use, snagged on branches, being dragged across the pavement, stained, whose origins Ben didn't even want to ponder. The idea of doing laundry delighted Ben for the first time in his life. 0000. Ben watched Billy type in the code for the gate. The massive chain link fence pulled back as Billy entered the correct code, simple as and easy to remember. And if it wasn't as if any of the infected were using touchpads, if wooden blocks were enough to keep people inside. Ben figured that the locked gate would be more than enough to keep them outside. The gate creaked open just enough to let the warrant inside before a pulley system sent it back to the other way, shutting it again. Badgie, badgie, badgie. Ben dug in his ear for his finger, sure that we was not hearing this in stereo. My girls, Badgie yelled, bending down to receive the 2 little rockets who were launching themselves at him, tackling him to the ground. As he stood, the 2 young children launched themselves at Badgie again, who playfully fought them off. The E's silver paws. The children staggered up, us immediately standing in formation. The booming command came from a gray wolf at the end of the hall. She wore a black jacket and a purple shirt, a black combat scarf draped around her neck. What's all this commotion? You see, Badgie, it's just that this is sensitive information. Willow hemmed and hawed, eyes remaining focused on Ben and Ollie. They were outsiders, and whatever she had to say was too peculiar to let the others hear. Anything you can say in front of me and Billy, you can say in front of Ben and Ollie. They've proven themselves a dozen times over tonight. Badgie nodded at Ben, and Ollie and Ben nodded back. Trust was a rare commodity in a world where everyone on the other side of the fence was just as likely to try to eat you as take you in. Very well, Willow continued. We've been hearing it for weeks, but we couldn't put a source to it until recently. Willow flipped open the file folder in her hands, a series of photos boasting blurry images of a helicopter. It's a helicopter, Willow explained, as through that were obvious from the pictures they were being shown. We think it belongs to him. Ben finished the sentence. He remembered hearing about the mysterious man's helicopter and thinking that the man sounded like the only person on the island who had one. It looked like his theory was proven itself correct. It's been flying overhead every day for a couple of days now. Willow continued, but we just managed to get a tracker on its signal last night. That means we can find out where it's coming from and where it's going. Badgie mused, cutting Willow off. Badgie turned to Ben as if waiting for his decision. It was a no-brainer. I need to go and see him, Ben stated, matter of fact, the tier officer doggy for Sally. Well, that settles it. Declaring Badgie, you're going, and Billy and I are coming with you. No! No, groaned a member of the youngest TSP agents. The kids from earlier appeared as if it from nowhere, each controlling their faces into incredible pouts crocodile tears welling in their eyes. Badgie bent down to their level as well as he could. I'll be back soon, I promise. I ever broken promised you to you two. No, the TSP agents groaned as they slowly extracted themselves from his legs. Badgie stood them next to each other. Take care of Ollie while we're gone. Ollie's jaw dropped. Wait, I'm not coming? Ben, tell them I'm coming. Honestly, Ben wished that his friend could, but he had just gotten Ollie back after he had accepted the fact that he might never see him again. What kind of friend would Ben be putting Ollie back in that danger? And if he had been seen what he thought he had seen on the registry, he wanted everyone that he cared about in one place, far away from the infected. Stay here, Ollie. I'll be back soon, I promise. He echoed Badgie's words to the TSP because he couldn't think of any comforting words of his own. He wondered how many times he could escape the wrath of the infected before his luck ran out. He only needed the one more time. Slinging off Sir Doggy's bag over his shoulder, he slid up alongside Badgie and Billy. The gate cranked open once more. The safe place was generous enough to let them use a truck. It's been in bed piled high with things they might need on their journey. Ben hadn't bothered to look, but if the safe place was as nice as Billy seemed to think it was, he was sure that they would have all the supplies they needed. The kids ran around the base of the gate as they departed. Ollie was nowhere to be seen. Maybe saying goodbye was too hard for him, but at least he was safe. That's what safe place is for. Badgie and Ben Billy spent most of the drive just talking about who they were, who they wanted to be, who they wouldn't have been if it weren't for this infection. For the first time in a long time, Ben let himself relax in the company of friends, not unlike on the train and the metro. It wasn't long before the rhythmic rocking of the vehicle put Ben to sleep. This time his sleep was mercifully dreams. No red-eyed infected bearing down on him. No puzzles that he had to solve to escape a room. No multicolor keys to collect. It was a sleep so peaceful that it was almost suspicious. The truck pulled to a stop and Ben arose, hopping out of the back and stretching his body. It was night again. Through this time no fog hung over the city. For the first time in days, Ben had spent the better part of the last few weeks, months, thinking that everything that could happen to him had the highest stakes possible, but looking up the stars with his friends, he suddenly felt like a very small part of something much bigger. So this is where the signal leads, Billy said, holding up a touchscreen tablet with a large blinking red dot on it. You can thank the finest state-of-the-art technology for that one. Wordlessly, Badgie pointed to his left. In the middle of the field sat a helicopter. Propellers spinning gently in a cool night breeze. Yeah, sure, I guess you could use your eyes too, like a Neanderthal. Keep your eyes peeled, Badgie advised. I've been to this side of the island. I have no idea what to expect. As long as we don't get taken by surprise, we should be fine." "Oof!" came a voice from behind them, causing the trio to jump. Badgie drew the vial from beneath his jacket with almost frightening speed, pointing it toward the source of the sound. He drew his arm back, poking the vial into his bag in the back seat of the cow. "Yow!" exclaimed Ollie as he hopped out of the bag, holding his backside in pain. "Ollie," Ben asked, surprised, "what are you doing here? Aren't the Silverpaws watching you?" Ollie pulled a long baseball bat from where he had been hiding. "No way, thanks to you. It was not easy to ditch those guys. There's two of them. I found this old baseball bat in the gym and I figured it would be perfect for a grand slam." "How are you going to win all 4 tennis championships with a baseball bat?" Billy queried. "He means the baseball one," Badgie injected. "It's where you hit a home run with all the bases loaded." "Thank you, Ollie told Badgie. "I don't care what sport you're playing. You're going to wait in the truck," Ben said, putting his foot down. "I can't believe you stowed away. Hey, whatever this is, the person down there might know something about what happened to my family. I want to see them. And it looks like we're not the only one," Billy mused, pointing behind the two friends. A sight was getting too familiar. Seeing a horde of infected creatures was on the march towards them. Ben couldn't see how many there were, just the throng of floating red eyes in the distance. Badgie held up his touchscreen tablet once more, punching in a few commands. The screen shifted and a green dot appeared right next to them, corresponding with the laboratory. "That's where you're going to want to go. Whatever is in that lab, it's going to have the answers you need. Take Ollie if in there with you. Billy and I will hold them off." Billy nodded solemnly, lifting his giant barbell from the backpack of his truck, its plates clanking into place. "Gentlemen, it's been an honor." Ben didn't want to leave his new friends. Not again, but if he didn't get to the bottom of this mystery, he didn't want to think about how many more friends he might have to leave behind or be left behind himself. Officer Doggy and Sally didn't deserve their fates. Maybe they were still out there, part of a traveling group of ragtag survivors. The thought immediately did put a smile on Ben's face, but one that he couldn't afford to share. When he was back at the safe place with Ollie, Badgie, and Billy, with the Willow barking orders, the TSP running around when he was reunited with his family, that was when he would allow himself some time to just be himself right now. There was too much at stake. He pulled Ollie toward the lab. On the crest of the hill, an army of infected made its way towards Badgie and Billy. The moonlight glinted off Badgie's vial as he thrusted and paired, warming himself up for the battle that he knew was about to take place, for very life was at stake. Ben didn't want to leave his new friends not where is it? Oh. And with it, Billy's life, the lives of Willow, the TSP agents, and everyone at the safe place. If this was their last stand, Badgie would have to be sensational. Billy's barbell had never been quite as flashy as Badgie's mystery vial, but Billy had never needed it to be. It was 2 pieces of steel with a steel beam in the middle, an instrument that had served him quite well in the past. Every chip, every dent told a story that he had lived to share. He convinced himself that today was no different. He hoped that he was right. He hoped as the infected began to climb the hill toward them, Billy spoke. Badgie, if we don't make it out of this, I just want to let you know. Billy trailed off, but it wasn't necessary. I already know, Billy, came Badgie's gentle reply in the distance. Ben swore he heard Badgie's voice echoing across the night. En garde. Ben wasn't sure if there was a protocol in a situation like this. Months ago, he would have just been happy to find Ollie, or the safe place finding the both of them was beyond the wildest dreams. Yet there he was possibly giving up in his chance and keeping both of his best friend and a fond family for the one thing that neither of those things could provide for him. Answers. Ben raised his hand, rapping on the door of the laboratory. He waited for a moment for an answer. It wouldn't just be like his luck if he had gone all this way to find an empty laboratory. He had seen the helicopter parked outside. He knew someone was here. He raised his fist again, knuckles falling on thin air as the door whooshed open before he could knock again. Whoever was here, they were expecting him. Ben turned to Ollie, and Ollie nodded solemnly, raising his new baseball bat above his shoulder. Ben for a grand slam. It, in whatever form it took, it had all been a long journey for the both of them, but never else they stepped into the lab. Content is in showing that they found that they would face it together. That was a cliffhanger for the last chapter of Piggy Infected. And I really liked how did all those infected get in the mall? Oh wait, they were probably infected in the mall. And why would somebody try to rob a bank if there were infecteds? And why were they talking about Robbie in the game? But I know what happens when they enter the laboratory because I've seen the game. So they find Mr. PP, Mr. Potato, and Badgie should be infected in there. But apparently in this book he ain't. But he will probably get infected. And you should have made a second book of this, so it's not a cliffhanger. And for book 2, a Piggy book 2. And I really like this. And there's the guy also made these books, so go check them out. And I really like it. So guys, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Follow us on Twitter at the Funky Play Bros. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the Funky Play Brothers. Support our vlog at cashapp at the $ Funky Play Bros. So again, having more unboxings, more taste tests, more adventures, more monies, and for support. Thank you for watching. Bye!